You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. I'm your host, Steve Mighty Blue Adams. First off, I need to apologise for not wishing you all a very happy Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate at this time of the year. It was only when I listened back that I became aware of that omission. So before I move on, I want to wish you all a happy new year with bells on. Job done. This week, I get the opportunity to introduce you all to two people who I'm going to be following on the trail next year in my Mighty Blue class of 2025. I've made the mistake in the past of trying to get too many people on the show for the class, and things haven't worked out precisely how I'd hoped. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've always loved this part of the show, and we've certainly heard some epic tales over the years. But this year, I decided I'd follow just two, a woman and a man. I already knew which woman I wanted to follow, as I'd hiked with her a couple of times, and I knew that she'd be an awesome guest on the show. You've already met her before, as she told us about her Portuguese Camino sometime last year. Her name is Beth Bakke Stenehjem, and I know you're going to love hearing how she gets on with her stepson Andrew next April. Beth will be on in a moment. The guy I chose from a bunch of fellas who reached out to me. As soon as I started speaking to all of them, I realised how difficult it was going to be to pick just one. But I was determined not to give myself too many people to follow, and I had to make a choice. Dave Santi has long been a supporter of the podcast, and he turned out to be a friendly, intelligent bloke who I'm delighted to be following next year. We're going to hear from Dave after Beth. I told all the guys who I didn't pick that I'd love to have them on the pod as a main guest once they've done with their 2025 hike. So everyone's a winner. If I didn't reach out to you after you'd requested to be on the show, it is only because I screwed up and overlooked your email somehow. I'm offering you the same offer. Get in touch once you're done next year and we'll get recording to tell your story. After Beth and Dave, we have another chapter from Emily Leonard's Happy Hiking, during which Emily discovers quite how much a half gallon of ice cream actually is. Spoiler alert, it ain't nothing. So let's meet our Mighty Blue class of 2025, and we'll start with my friend Beth Bakke Stenehjem. Here's Beth. Well, the first member of our Mighty Blue class of 2025 of two is somebody I actually chose to follow. I didn't ask her to go through a process I asked everybody else to go through. This is Beth Bakke Stenehjem. Hey, Beth, how are you?
I'm very good, very good.
And we're friends. We've hiked together. In fact, we hiked together on the Appalachian Trail last year. We went and did the Virginia Triple Crown together with a couple of other people, and we had fun. It was a great,
it was so much
fun.
Great
trip.
It was so much fun, and it was fun to go with. We had a great team that we went with, and it was great. Sure.
So, and I know that you're obviously doing the Appalachian Trail this coming year. You've been on it before. You've done, I mean, apart from with me, you've actually did a month before, didn't you?
Just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks.
All right. Tell us about that.
And we started out with 10 of us, and then 5 were only going to stay the first week, and so then they left, and then the other 5 of us went on for another week, and it rained every stinking day. Every stinking day it rained on us, and but it was still a lot of fun, and we still had a good time. We still it didn't deter me from thinking, gosh, I want to do this someday.
So was that, when you went on that trip then, was that the moment or that the time you decided this is something I want to do the full thing? Because not everybody wants to do a full through hike because it's a heck of a long time. It's a big commitment. And as you say, it rains every stinking day. So was that the time you thought, well, I can live with this. I can do this?
I don't know. Right after that was when we did Mount Whitney. Right. And I always wanted to do the John Muir Trail. And, I just looked at, PCT versus the AT and kind of thought, gosh, you know what? I'd rather have some a trail where there's more infrastructure. There's more way to get off and get food. And I don't know. I just felt a little bit more like it would be maybe more doable, or maybe, I don't know. I like the idea of the Appalachian Trail. It seems like there's a lot of help from people in the surrounding areas. Yeah, I don't know.
But everybody I've spoken to on this trail says, in terms of physical difficulty, the Appalachian Trail is the hardest of the three main trails. So if it's the logistics that was worrying you, I understand why you would want to do that. But it ain't easy, but it's great fun. And now, of course, in 2025, even more so, making it not that easy is the state of the trail. So you've obviously thought about that. So from your understanding, where is the trail right now, and how has that affected your plans?
Well, so I talked to my stepson, who is going along with me, and about it, and he's like, we'll wait and see. We'll do it. We'll wait and see. We'll do it. And he's kind of a, like, just doesn't plan as much, and just knows that everything will work out. And by gum, it usually does for him. So I'm kind of,
don't those people annoy you?
I've been kind of surprised, though, seeing how much people have worked on the trail, and it seems like there is, there will be alternatives, and we aren't leaving until April or end of March. So I think we'll find out from other people what North Carolina and Tennessee is like before we get up there. So,
but is it important to you to do because I know you're going Nobo? Is it important to you to finish at Katahdin? Is that the way you wanted to do it, or is a flip flop a possibility for you?
I think with me, I would be okay with a flip-flop. I think with Andrew, he will not be okay with a flip-flop.
There we go. Team effort.
So I guess we'll wait and see.
So I'm sure you'll make your plan. You change your plans as time goes on. Obviously, none of this stays the same. You have to be fluid. You have to be dynamic. So, what is your hiking experience so far? I know quite a bit because I've shared a couple of hikes with you. So, tell us what you've been doing.
So I've done the Grand Canyon with TSX Challenge, who we went to Whitney with. Of course, Whitney, hiked with you guys on the Triple Crown in Virginia. We don't have mountains in North Dakota like like the AT. So I don't get out. I'll go hiking here, but it's a totally different thing. You don't have elevation, you don't have those kinds of things. So I have a little bit of that. And then I actually just started 3 weeks ago a training program with James Applewood, who is with Seek to Do More Great Range Athletes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he has like a 6-week training kind of hiking thing. And I thought, if I can get some exercises that will help me so that, I'm less apt to hurt myself or to be in better condition, I'm going to do it. So, yeah, it's been 3 weeks, and I'm doing a lot of push-ups and burpees. And
oh, my gosh. So is this what is this then? Is it a video sort of thing? You tune into
so it's I think there are like 12 of us or something like that, and we do little video clips at the end of the day, kind of just saying, or whenever during the day, saying what we did that day, or how it went and stuff, and it's good because I need somebody that that's maybe not going to nag me, but is going to, hold me accountable.
It's an accountability group. But you know what? I think that's a much more important thing than most people realize. I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
And so what do you, so your physical preparation, I know you've also done a couple of Caminos, in fact, have you now?
Yeah. So I've done, 3 on the Francis and 1 on the Portuguese route. So, so that the doing, the same thing every day, it's totally different, but the idea that you're doing the same thing every day for a month or whatever does not worry me as much as the mountains and I'm not so worried about the altitude, but I am about like just hurting myself because I'm not in the shape that I should be in.
Now, I hesitate to ask a lady her age, but I'm gonna.
Okay.
So actually, how old are you?
I just turned 58.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're ready to go. You're a youngster still.
Yeah.
I got 15 years in you. You're good. No, never a problem. In fact, funnily enough, Dave, the other guy I'm going with, we're going to follow, is also 58. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So have you thought, and this isn't, I should have warned you about this question actually. What is your why? Why do you want to, what is a thing you want? Why are you doing this?
I think one of the whys is being with Andrew for that long. I mean, he's not only my stepson, he is really one of my best friends. I mean,
Wow.
we really, really like to travel together. We like to have fun together. And when he mentioned it, I was kind of like, when would I ever get this chance again? My husband died 3 years ago. And so it's still good for us to just do stuff together and to take on, he's a big challenge guy. I mean, he's done Ironman and he's done Spartan races and things like that. And he loves the whole having a big goal. And so this will be a big thing for us. Yeah.
I bet it will. I mean, and I tell you, how close, I mean, you're already close anyway, but you're going to get so close, but spending that time with somebody, is he quite a, I know you're quite outgoing person. Is he quite an outgoing guy as well?
Oh, my, yes. Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes, he's not going to have any problem making friends.
Oh, right. So you'll enjoy the social part of the trial. There's nothing wrong with that. Now,
Yes.
I've only ever called you Beth. What have you got a trail name, or are you thinking of a trail name?
Well, we got trail names when we were on Whitney. The rest of us, but I haven't really decided if I want to keep it. Of course, Andrew thinks that you can't name yourself, and I know that. I know.
You need to get out of that.
So I don't know. We'll see.
What was your trail name on Whitney?
It was Cheer.
That's right. Oh, of course, you cheered us all in.
Yeah.
You cheered us losers in at the end of the day. I always remember that.
No, I was so proud. I was so excited when everybody came in because it never felt like the day was done until everybody got in, and we were also proud of each other. And Yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely were. I mean, it was for me, particularly as a recipient. I very rarely had the opportunity to clap people in. So, as a recipient of being clapped in, it was a wonderful way to end the day. And have you thought about the mental side of this? Because, as you say, it does rain a lot, and 4 or 5 straight days of packing up your tent is going to piss you off from time to time. Are you mentally tough enough, do you think, to handle this? Or is Andrew the person who will carry you through, or you carry each other through these things?
I think we'll carry each other through. I think we'll both have hard times, and I think I think it'll be hopefully where he is maybe struggling, I'm ready to go, and the opposite is true. I worry about him less than me probably, but I think that we're both pretty set on making it. And so unless something physically happens, I believe that we'll persevere.
And have you had the conversation? Because couples who go together, one of them might hate it, one of them might get injured. What happens if you get injured or Andrew gets injured? Will the other one carry on?
Yes. We've already
really?
talked about it. Yep. And it's just one of those things where it's like,
see you, buddy. You're on your own.
Yeah. I think that we both are pretty determined to try to do it. And so I think it would be disappointing. I would be disappointed if something happened to me and he didn't go on, because I'd feel like it was my fault then. So it feels like it's a little bit less pressure on me when I think he's going to go on without me, so.
So you're giving each other permission effectively, which is a good thing,
I
think. So you both know. And how you plan this logistically? Are you going to get food sent from home, or have you dehydrated, or you just get stuff when you go into town? I
think just going to town, because I hear, or I've read, I guess, or see podcasts or whatever, and, about kind of logistics of you get there and the post office is closed or whatever. And I don't know, that just seems like a lot. So I think that our plan is just to, get stuff in town when we can.
I would try, by the way, that's what I was going to say. I would try, by the way, to make sure you try to start with the various trail towns, because not only is the trail be damaged, but the infrastructure. I mean, I went to Hot Springs a few weeks ago, and oh my gosh, it was smashed to bits. Yeah. So I think you might want to be much more not careful. Yeah, careful. You need to be a bit more careful to make sure when you plan ahead 40, 50 miles ahead, say for the next 4 or 5 days, whatever it's going to be, whatever your pace is. Make sure there is something there, and you can normally find that out, I would imagine, on far out. So I would make sure you pay close attention to that. And have you got a plan of when you're going to finish, or are you just going to start at the beginning of April effectively and then finish whenever you finish?
Yeah, we'll finish whenever we finish. Andrew has invited everyone we know to come along with us. So, nice. So we might have those weeks that we're a little on a different schedule or whatever, but it'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm hoping that we will have people who will come and walk with us. Karen from our Mount Whitney group is going to come and walk with us.
I was going to ask about Karen. I'm so glad she is. That's great.
Yeah, she's in Vermont. And so she said, oh, yeah, maybe August. So hopefully we'll get done in, sometime in September or really early October.
Right. So you're planning on about 6 months. And Andrew's got no time crunch either then.
Yeah. He's not worried about the time. So
okay. What's he doing? Giving his job up or what?
Well, they are very flexible, it turns out. So he's got permission. He told them that he was going to be gone probably about 6 months, and they said, okay.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. How bad is that, eh?
Yeah.
So looking at it, you've read a lot about it, I presume, and you've researched it as much as you can. What are you most looking forward to out there?
Just because I've done the Camino several times, meeting other people that are so different than I am, I'm excited about that part of it. I'm excited about learning about other people and why they do what they do and how they made it happen. And then, of course, I love being out in nature. So that's like my super happy place. Even rain, sometimes I can deal with.
Sometimes indeed, yeah. And of course, going the time you're going, most of the really bad weather should have gone, although I've had snow in the Smokies in April. Just saying, that's kind of what it is. It happens. And that's what you're looking forward to. What are you least looking forward to?
I would say both Andrew and I are at least looking forward to snakes. I'm not that terrified of snakes, but I'm not crazy about them. So that is maybe and being wet and cold. That's it. Yeah. Probably even more than snakes.
The things with snakes, they don't appear to be that dangerous to me, but it's the way they bloody move. They move so damn fast, and it just frightens the crap out of me every time I see them.
We ran into one when we were going on the Appalachian Trail when there was only 5 of us on that second week, and I have to say it was pouring, and we wanted to get going, and this stupid snake was right in the middle of the trail, wouldn't move, and it was very interesting.
It's his home. It's not your home, remember. So that's all good. Well, look, I'm so excited you agreed to do this with me. My plan is that a month before you go, for those 4 weeks before you go, we'll have a conversation about a certain aspect of your preparation so far. And all I can say is this is your year, 2025. So you're going to enjoy it. So anyway, have a happy Christmas, and we'll catch up soon, okay?
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Steve.
Cheers then. Bye.
Cheers.
Love Beth. She and Karen, who she mentioned there, were the 2 instigators of cheering us on when we reached a stopping point on our Whitney trip. I know I've mentioned this before, but it's so hard to describe how intensely, pleasurable and encouraging it was when the 2 of them got up and started bawling out our names with words of encouragement and loud cheers as the rest of us staggered into camp or just a lunch spot. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Beth is such a nurturing soul, and she'll make many friends out on the trail next year, as will her stepson Andrew, apparently. She has a joyous nature, a wide smile, and as you heard, a very infectious laugh. We'll be catching up with her preparations in late February, early March. Before we meet Dave Santi, I want to shout out to our wonderful donors once more. Monthly donors this week were Emmanuel Bravo Ramos, Kevin Weidman, Brian Alsop, Glenn Ferguson, Emily's Escapades, Bruce Brinker, Jessica Diaz and Hugh Ikreth. Also, Alan Hansen donated and wished me a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, while Scott Tylicki also donated, then added, thanks for all you do for the hiking community. Additionally, Rob Diamond donated through Venmo, adding, Hiking Radio Network, keep them coming. I sure will, Rob. Thanks to all of you for your support. If you'd like to donate, there are plenty of ways to do so. Just read the show notes or head on over to hikingradionetwork.com and I'll be happy to see you on our monthly list soon. Cheers. Now, I'd like you all to meet our second class of 25 guests. This is Dave Santi. So, our second member of the Mighty Blue class of 2025 emerged from a list of many who I spoke with about being a guest on the show to follow for next year. And this is Dave Santi. Hey, Dave, how are you?
Good morning, Mighty Blue. Thank you for having me on today.
Well, I hope the beauty contest wasn't too onerous for you. We just had a chat the other day. We all spoke about, I spoke to all the guys who were going to go next year, and I thought that you'd be a good guest for us. And I'm hopeful that people will support you on the way up the hike. But you will be recognised, by the way, Dave, on the trail as somebody who's on the Mighty Blue show. I promise you.
That should add some fun to the journey as well, shouldn't it?
I just think so. So let's talk first about your hike next year, which is going to be somewhat problematic. And it's going to be problematic, of course, because the state of the trail of what happened last year with Hurricane Helene. What have you been thinking about that? What have you been doing to prepare yourself for what could be quite a tricky trail?
Well, it's a difficult proposition, as everybody understands. I mean, with what's going on down there. After the hurricane blew through in the end of September, actually, I was out hiking that weekend. I got home and heard about the hurricane, and at first it was like devastation. But as a hiker, you go, well, dirt is dirt, and and we'll keep walking. I understand and felt for the people and the loss of structure and things like that. But I assumed that the trail itself wouldn't be as impacted, and certainly I was quite wrong. And as the devastation unfolded, I started to learn and frankly was worried about the overall impact. I mean, the initial ATC reports showed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles closed. So that immediately started the second guessing and wondering what was going to happen for us next year. So I had been monitoring ATC website. There's a YouTuber by the name of Ramdino who does a great job of keeping us all updated on what's going on. I've actually started a spreadsheet just to kind of have a sense of course, just to see what was open at what point, what was closed, and watch the progression, shall we say. So, I'm aware of what's going on and we'll take the path that's presented in front of me.
Right. So what I mean, is there a complete path right now, or are there reroutes as far as you know?
At the moment, if you examine the ATC's official website, there is about 60 or 70 miles that are technically officially closed in the Pisgah National Forest. Yeah. So legally it's closed because it crosses over with the Cherokee National Forest. Cherokee's open, Pisgah is closed. Right. And so because you remember back and forth between the two states as well. Oh, yeah. The Pisgah's closed, so you could technically still hike it, but they say since you can't tell the difference where one goes into the other, you're going to wander onto closed forest land. Now, in actual passable miles, if you look at, for example, Ramdino's got a spreadsheet also, there's only about 6 or 7 totally impassable miles where you can't hike. There's a couple of reroutes planned. I'm waiting to see what the ATC puts out because, as you know, they'll put out an official mileage for the year and official reroutes, and so
they haven't done that yet. I didn't. No. It shows how out of touch I am. I haven't checked that at all. So there's no miles next year. So it could actually go over 2,000 next year, couldn't it?
It very well could be. Since what was 2197 last year, it could very well go over because the reroute proposed that I saw for one section was certainly longer than the section that you were intended to hike. But I think it's the first. You're legally clear for the first 327 miles. So my attitude is I'm going to start at Springer and go 327 miles,
Right.
and then see what they require of us.
Sure. I've got to tell you, having gone to Hot Springs, and I said this to Beth earlier on, but having gone to Hot Springs, the infrastructure is massively damaged in several places. So you'll need to really up your plan. Your spreadsheet could actually come into play in a big way. So you might want to watch out for that. You're going to need that spreadsheet more than you never know. So tell us about your hiking experience then, Dave. What have you done?
Well, I mean, I started hiking as a young 10, 12 years old with the Boy Scouts, like a lot of your guests, a lot of people out there.
Sure.
We did a lot of backpacking, and it was the 70s, external frame, heavy equipment. I remember doing a snow camp a couple times, froze myself into a popsicle with only not even adequate gear.
Nice.
We used to carry heavy equipment in. Didn't hike as much as I got older. Did a lot of outdoor activities. My father was big into hunting and fishing, so my brother and my father and I we spent a lot of time in the outdoors.
Right.
And I've done a lot of day hiking over the years. I know that's not your favorite, but I do enjoy being in the outdoors with my wife, kids sometimes too. And then I've taken up backpacking again in the last couple of years. So did a really great shakedown in Yosemite last summer for about 6-7 days. Did about 60 something miles.
But how are you by yourself then? Did you hike by yourself or did you go with friends?
The Yosemite trip I was with a friend,
Right.
But I have done about 10 nights by myself in the various park areas near where I live here in Northern California. Just a night or two here. I don't mind the alone. I am a social person, I guess you would say. I do want to be around other people.
Sure.
Like I assume a lot of your hikers do. It's one reason I've chosen the ATC or the AT over anything else, because of the social nature. But I really enjoyed the shakedown. It was a good opportunity to try the gear. And even so with Yosemite, we had basically summer and winter. It was the end of August. We went over Red Peak Pass, which is well over 11,000 feet. We're snowed on one night. Temps down to about 17 degrees one night, and pleasant upper 60s, low 70s. A couple of days later.
Have you made a change to your gear from your West Coast hiking to your East Coast hiking? Are there factors that you're thinking of that perhaps you might need something different?
Rain is going to be the most driving factor between the difference. Although,
in fact, driving rain will be the driving factor.
Driving rain, exactly. Although we did experience precipitation rain, a little bit more snow when we were in Yosemite, so I did go prepared for precipitation in Yosemite. But that would be the most driving factor for me. So trying to understand how to prepare and buy gear that will be tolerant of rain. My pack is, quote, water resistant, waterproof.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that, exactly. But I'm triple layering that. I've got the sleep equipment in a waterproof stuff sack, everything in an Ilaflume bag, and then everything in a semi-waterproof.
Yeah, but you know
so
what?
We'll see.
It's the thing you have to do. You have to look after your gear, keep it dry, obviously, especially your sleep gear. But stuff dries out. It's all good. You're going to be fine. You'll work your way through it. One of the things that the hiking does teach you is how to be a problem solver. You'll have lots of problems to solve, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to do that. So, what is your why? You mentioned that you wanted to do the AT for the reason that you thought it was a challenge and so on. But what is your why? Why are you doing this?
Well, it's an interesting question, Stephen. I think that a lot of it boils down to, I'm 58 years old. I think you might have brought it up with your listeners. Yeah. I'm not old in the old sense, but I'm certainly
you're not old in the Steve sense. No, you're right.
I didn't mean that, Steve. But not in the bloom of blush of my first youth, or whatever interesting English phrase you might turn on that. So some of it is I'm recently retired, or I'm about to be. It's as we're recording. My wife just retired, and we've got plans for what we're going to do as retired people. But I decided, before we kick off that version of life, I'm going to do this. The why really boils down to both my parents died in the last couple of years of cancer. I'd lost my sister-in-law to cancer in the same time frame. I've had my own health issues in that time frame. And the why is really to get out and live, to get out and experience, and to push myself while I still can.
Are you taking an illness out there, or are you okay?
Oh no.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm a cancer survivor.
Right. Because that was a dangerous question for me to ask, by the way, without warning you. So,
and it's something I don't mind talking about. I just don't define myself with that part of my life.
So how long have you been cancer free?
7 years.
Right.
7 years. So it's still being monitored, but it's fine. I mean, it's not. I don't mind talking about it. It's just.
Sure.
I don't want to wear that badge. That's
Absolutely.
just not who I am. It's not who I am. So it's pushing myself to do something. So, it's a big to do. I have family in Italy. I was talking to my cousin over there one day about it, and he's like, "Why?" And I said I couldn't quite explain it. And he finally picked up the word sfida, which in Italian means challenge. And I'm like, yes, it's a challenge to myself. Not can you do this, but can you set a goal and reach it and achieve it? I believe I can, and so I do want to push myself.
Well, you're about to find that out this year.
We certainly,
you mentioned your wife. She doesn't want to come with you, or that's not her thing, or you just wanted to do this by yourself?
It's a little bit of all three, I'd say, Steve. She likes the day hikes. But whenever we go out hiking, even my daughters joke about it. They call it Dave's boot camp, right? So I tend to march them a little harder and faster than they might want. But that's she looks at day hikes and all that, but she's got absolutely no interest in as you described, living the feral lifestyle, the dirtiness, everything your listeners and you have experienced out there and understand. She wants none of it. I mean,
if I tell you what, Dave, you're going to be surprised how enjoyable that lifestyle actually becomes, the feral lifestyle. It kind of works.
I'm looking forward to it, but there's no way I could convince her to do that. She doesn't want to go through that experience, the feral lifestyle. But she's fully supportive, and she's going to fly out with me to Atlanta.
Nice.
Spend the first about 2 weeks in my orbit, shall we say?
Right.
Not really even hiking, just within the orbit. I'll see her every 2 or 3 days, depending on where we're ducking in and out. And then she's planning on coming out twice more, somewhere in the mid-Atlantic states, wherever. We'll have to kind of plan that as we go, and then hopefully for as much of almost the last month, shall we say. New Hampshire, Maine. We have some friends who live in Maine, so she's going to go visit, stay with. Yeah. Maybe she'll be the one to drop me off a resupply at Joe and Mary Road. Who knows? But I don't think she'll climb Katahdin with me. Like, I think too many people.
You can't put that upon somebody to do it. It'll take her forever, and she'll just hate you forever for it. So don't do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Has your start date? I know you're starting early March. What date?
Yes. March 5th.
March 5th. Starting March 5th. Has your start date been moved because of what's happened to the trail? Or
no.
That's always been the plan?
It's always been the plan early March. I would think, you're within the bubble, anywhere between March and April. I would have even considered maybe early April. Two things. One, I'm impatient. I want to get started. I've been, you kind of dream and think about things. I'm not going to push it off another month. Certainly another month might help the trail heal a little bit better. Give it another month for the crews to get more work done. But I have a target of early September. It's not a deadline. My brother turned 60 in early September, and my wife's birthday's in early September. So I'd kind of like to be done and back for both those events.
And have you chosen a trail name, or are you prepared to let some person name you give you a terrible name that will live with you forever?
No, Steve. In fact, I mean, I've been mulling trail names over for a long time, and I finally came up. I'm going to call myself Freebird.
Nice.
And my 22-year-old daughter just jumped up and said, "That's it. That's beautiful. It's perfect." So, when you get the approval of the young people, you got to go with it,
Well, there's a guitar over your shoulder. Do you play that guitar? You don't play Freebird on that guitar, do you?
No, I do not. The guitars are both aesthetic and a hobby. I'm not a guitarist. I can play, but it's not my passion.
So, have you thought about the mental side of it? It's something. It is an intangible. You cannot really prepare for it. But how are you going to be 4 or 5 days of, as you say, driving rain? Are you that sort of person who can cope with that sort of adversity? Because it feels pretty tough when you wake up every morning and your tent's soaked. You've got to pack it up soaked and things get wet in your tent as well. How are you going to face that?
Well, I think that the adversities are going to be there. You just have to understand it. You have to accept it. I think acceptance is the start point. Once you accept this is your circumstance, you can formulate what your plan is, how you're going to work with it. I did mention to you previously, I am a person of routine. So I think from a mental perspective, routine is perfectly fine with me. Even if the routine is hiking in the rain every day, I get used to doing the same thing. Even food. So, the food issues, I don't care if I have to eat the same breakfast and lunch and dinner every day after day.
Don't have oatmeal.
It'll probably start with a little oatmeal. I think it'll evolve to Pop-Tarts. But living on the West Coast, people assume it's all sunshine and daisies and rainbows out here. In this part of Northern California, we get a lot of rain. So even yesterday morning I was out hiking. I hike in the rain. I put my rain gear on. I put my pack on. I hike in the rain. So I've been hiking in the rain, so to speak, every winter for the last 2-3 years. So I can't say that I like it any more than anyone else does. But you kind of, once you're out there, you put your head down a little, and you just go.
Yeah. And you've obviously thought about this for some time. Actually, how long have you been thinking about doing this?
So it started in the sense of I'm going to do this and making a plan late 2021 after my father died. Right. I can say that it goes back all the way to Bill Bryson, just like everybody else. And by the way, I'm on the love him camp.
Yes.
I understand
you will hear loads of people out there who hate the crap out of him. They need to get over themselves. He tells a great story. He tells it really well. So let him go over. So the reason I asked that, how long you've been thinking about this, is stuff that you're going to experience and things that you've probably seen pictures of virtually every part of the trail from different people, obviously on the social media and so on. What are you most looking forward to out there?
Well, it's easy to say the iconic things, the McAfee knob and all that, and I'm not going to say that. I'm not looking forward to seeing the iconic things. That will be great. They'll come along. But I also recognize that your eyes and your experience are yours, and pictures are pictures. But the experiences will only be as you perceive them. So I'm going to take all those iconic things in stride. I'm just looking forward to being there. I want to be on the trail. I'm looking forward to the heart. I'm looking forward to Pennsylvania. I'm looking forward to the rocks. I'm sure I'll regret that.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you that one in your face.
Absolutely.
A couple of months' time, mate, to tell you'll say, I've had enough of these rocks. For God's sake.
Exactly. I think I'm looking forward to just not the individual specific tiny things, but in the big picture, to be able to experience all the things that I've heard about and heard you talk about, your guests talk about, is to be in those same spaces. I'm a historian by interest, not by trade. Right. And so whenever I've gotten to visit historical sites, Normandy, the beaches of D-Day, things like that, and you're standing in the same places that you've heard so much about, it's just a feeling that comes over you. So it's that.
I think, funny enough, you say that, I'm just thinking to my experience of McAfee Knob. Several times I've been up there and so on, and it still hits me as almost otherworldly. I'd seen the pictures of it. I love the idea. One of our guests a few weeks ago said they didn't know anything about the trail at all. They only heard about McAfee Knob the day before they went up there. For me, though, knowing McAfee Knob was coming up in 100 miles or whatever, I was looking forward to it. When I saw it, it was different to what I imagined, only slightly, but more exciting because of it. Now, I've already asked you what you're looking forward to. What are you not looking forward to?
Well, I could almost say nothing. There's nothing I'm like almost say dreading or looking forward to. I'm certainly the separation from my wife for that period of time is not something that you take lightly.
Sure.
We do okay being apart as couples go. I mean, we've been married 34 years, so It's not. We've never been apart that long. We've been apart as long as maybe 3 weeks at a time. So I think the separation from my wife. Both my daughters are adult grown, so I'm not leaving them. So to speak. Neither of them are living with us permanently, so that's not an issue. So I suppose I'm not looking forward to the things that we all, the discomforts. I mean, nobody seeks discomfort. So, I'm starting early March. I know it's going to be cold. Yeah. I don't like cold, but I prepared for it. I'm sure at some point you'll remind me I don't like walking on rocks day in and day out. But no,
listening to you and listening to Beth, I'm so excited for you both. It's a wonderful thing to do, and to realize that moment in your life. You've now got this period of time to work towards that accomplishment. If you weren't able to finish it, how bad would it be for you?
I'd go back.
Oh, really? Would
yeah.
you? Wow.
I'm a completionist. If that's
it may not be a word, but everyone understands exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I'm really driven. If I've got a goal, if something is set, and it's both a negative and a positive trait. You talk about the mental aspect. You mentioned, sure. How you prepare mentally, and one of the things that I find myself is no matter how irritated or frustrated I am with a task, and my wife will be in the background going, "Just leave it be. Get back to it tomorrow." And I'm like, "I'm going to finish this thing," and and I generally do. And so, whether it's a giant disappointment to the sense of feeling like a failure, I'm likely to go back and I'm hesitate to say, Steve, but I'm likely to start it all over again. I don't know. We'll take it as it comes, and hope we don't have to.
Well, look, as I say, I'm envious of both of you. I'm so glad you've agreed to join the class of 25. And then what we're going to do, keep up with each other. We're going to have a 4-week sort of lead into you leaving, pack shakedown and 1 or 2 other things. And we'll then speak to you. I'll speak to you every week on the trail, and just keep we'll keep your story going, and hopefully we'll follow you all the way to Katahdin. But thanks for coming on and sharing it with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the adventure, and I'm looking forward to being on the Mighty Blue team.
Okay, man. Take it easy, okay?
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
I really like his calm demeanour and get-it-done attitude. He's already sent me his pack details, but I'm going to save that for now until we do the 2 pack shakedowns, about a month prior to departure for both Beth and Dave. I found his answers to be nuanced and well thought out. I'm sure we're all going to enjoy cheering both he and Beth on in 2025. I did think about getting more age balance in our class members, but I'm happy where we are. Our listenership skews a little older than most podcasts, so I wanted to follow these 2 as they reflect a fair proportion of our audience. As everybody always says, though, age disappears out on the trail. You're just as likely to bond with somebody half your age as you are to bond with somebody double your age. It simply doesn't matter out there. Now, it might be a good time to ask you to get involved in the class of 2025. I've already mentioned the pack shakedown, and I'm toying with several other ideas for the other podcasts prior to their leaving. If you have any good ideas, please drop me a line at steve@hikingradionetwork.com, and I'll put them into the mix. Moving on, and we reach chapter 19 and the halfway point in Emily's hike. It's at this stage that she strikes out alone, removing herself from her tramily. Let's see why and how she does. I'll see you next week. Chapter 19. New Beginnings. Despite the smile on my face, sadness was overtaking me. I knew Harper's Ferry ended my time with Walking Man and GQ. My hiking family was disintegrating. Fruit Smoothie had to leave a while back, and Pumpkin flew ahead. Now it was time for me to separate from the father-son duo. They were much stronger hikers, and if I wanted to enjoy the trail and make it to the end, I needed to hike my own hike. It was time. I had to do what was right for me, even if it meant saying goodbye. In town, we did our own visiting and sightseeing. GQ and Walking Man went one way, and I hung around the ATC, waiting for Jim Fedig, aka Sisu, the bridge runner I met on my very first night on the trail back at Springer Mountain. That first night on top of Springer Mountain, Sisu had informed me he also volunteered at the ATC in Harper's Ferry on Tuesdays. It just happened to be a Tuesday when I arrived. When I walked into the office, there he was, perched behind the desk. He reminded me of Captain Kirk from Star Trek. He wasn't wearing a tight leotard, but he did have a commanding and professional posture that fit the bill. He recognised me right away and told me if I could hang around an hour and a half, he'd take me to lunch. What thru hiker could refuse an invitation like that? I was quite happy to rest in the Conservancy's hiker lounge. I even snoozed on the well-worn couch. Sisu took me to a little diner just down the road. He liked to frequent the diner for his lunch breaks and spoke highly of it. I was drooling just thinking of some good home-style food. Unfortunately, the diner was closed. Our choices were limited. The only establishment close was a chic little place with contemporary cuisine. I was famished, but my polite nature only allowed me to order a salad. It was way too pricey, and I was not going to run up his tab. It was almost painful to eat a small salad that came with such a high price tag. All I could think of was, you're not in Lowell anymore. The meal may have lacked in quantity and quality, but the company did not. We shared trail experiences and other topics of the day. What I found most interesting was the fact that for most through hikers who make it to Harper's Ferry, odds were in the hikers' favour to make it all the way to Katahdin. The main factors usually preventing a successful completion from that point on were injury and lack of funds, not the hikers' prowess. Several hikers I had the fortune of meeting earlier on my hike were no longer on the trail for one reason or another. I felt special. Bruce had helped two other hikers, half blind and cancer, get to Harper's Ferry where they would end their through hike attempt. Cancer was worn out. His knees just couldn't take it anymore. He was hiking to raise money for St. Jude's. His trail name comes from his history of having cancer. Half blind is half blind. He was leaving the trail because he had just had enough. He almost stepped on a rattlesnake because of his limited vision. He'd fallen and broken ribs. When we met back up with him at the Bear's Den, he was suffering from norovirus. He was so sick that he was confined to his tent and the potty. Lots of hikers out there had serious struggles. I tried to keep that in mind when my feet hurt. I could stop at any time to rest and the pain would stop. For others, the pain will never go away. At lunch, Sisu also shared his initial impression of me when we had met that very first day back on Springer Mountain. It had not been positive. Apparently, he had been concerned with my tenting skills, and he did not think I would make it. Fooled him, didn't I? How many times do we do the same thing to others? We prejudge them on a split second by the way they talk, look, or act. It's so easy to do. I do it. We all do it. But should we? If only we could look deep into a person's heart. Most of the time, we're too busy with our own concerns to take the time to understand others. In Sisu's case, his thoughts of me did not hinder my well-being in any way, nor were they inflammatory. He was merely concerned for my safety. He was also kind enough to keep his impressions to himself. Sometimes, though, when we do share with others our prejudices about someone, we rob that person we're talking about of a fair chance and possibly of their dignity as well. It's always better to keep our lips zipped and not discuss negatives about our fellow folks. Who knows, that person who first made you think twice about a situation might just fool you too. Sisu needed to get back to work, and I needed to find GQ and Walking Man. I graciously thanked him for his generosity. I was in awe of his kindness. Trail angels are everywhere. Back at the Conservancy, we said goodbyes and I headed north. The trail continued through the little historic downtown of Harper's Ferry, where I found my last two trail family members at a local pub. Where else would they have been? Yay, they weren't ready to leave. I was so glad. I still needed to increase my calorie allotment before heading back into the woods. My stomach barely noticed the salad I'd wolfed down earlier. I ordered the usual, a jumbo burger and fries. No milkshake this time, though. It was time to celebrate. GQ recommended sangria, which became my new favourite beverage, after anything with tequila, of course. The three of us toasted our accomplishments, and although it was unspoken, we knew it would be the end of our trio. We departed the quaint little town, crossing the river from West Virginia and entering Maryland, our sixth state. We hiked our last 6.3 miles together to the Ed Garvey shelter, where we spent our last night with each other's company. I'm sure the separation was harder for me than it was for Walking Man and GQ. They had each other and were probably glad to be alone. After all, they were on the trail to bond. The Appalachian Trail is a wilderness experience, but it isn't a secluded one. It's very crowded out there. I was more of a third wheel for them, even though they'd never once made me feel that way. May the 27th, I started a new beginning. Again. This Appalachian Trail journey had so many new starts. With each new beginning, a lesson was learned. When Andrew went home, I learned I would be okay. When I quit mentally, I learned that sometimes you just need a time out. When I said goodbye to the guys, I learned to embrace the unknown. The separation wasn't like ripping off a Band-Aid. We had that night together and we hiked most of the last day in each other's company. It was an easy day and the rhythm had us in step. At one point, we waited out a microburst storm. Timing was everything again. We stopped at a tenting area with bathroom facilities complete with showers. I was the only gal, so I took full advantage of spreading out in the bathhouse. I showered, charged my electronics, and rested while the storm passed. The guys had to crowd in with several other hikers. We headed back to the trail after the last roll of thunder silenced and the sun peeked out. I then had a left and right brain feud. The hemispheres of my mind had been arguing all day. Left brain said, "Go girl, Only 4 more miles and you can keep pace with your friends. Right brain said, you're no longer 26. Heck, for that matter, you're no longer 40, and you really should stop and rest. Left brain said, yeah, but... Right brain won. I stopped for the day. Then I never saw the guys again. I began my new hike with wide eyes and excited anticipation. As much as I grew to love hiking with Walking Man and GQ, I was letting that comfort stifle my growth on the trail. I needed to fend for myself now, and I looked forward to it. The next 5 days, I greeted each morning with a simple prayer. Okay, God, what do you have in store for me today? That simple act opened up a whole new way of looking at my future on the trail. Instead of being afraid, calmness and curiosity overtook me. I was quite happy and relaxed. I no longer feared the unknown. That first night, I stopped at Raven Rock Shelter. It was a beautiful 2-level structure, a log home type with a side missing. The empty wall opened up to a large covered porch with a picnic table. This shelter even had a cot donated by a previous hiker. I claimed ownership for the night before anyone else could. I usually let others have the amenities, but that day I decided, why not me? The surroundings had multiple tenting areas, each with its own fire ring. Several hikers chose this little paradise as their day's destination. Voltron, Last Chance, D-Man, Devo and his dog Diva, and a couple others. Luckily, it was a large shelter. Once settled in, I noticed a very large knife in a leather sheath placed on the shelter's I-beam. I reached up, took it down and asked if it belonged to anyone. They all denied possession. Then 2 young men came back from the spring. I inquired with them also. It did in fact belong to one of them. The owner of the knife explained he thought he would need it, but it was too heavy and large to carry on such a long hike. My eyes widened and I asked if I could keep the knife if he was just going to leave it. I only had 3 days to Pine Grove Furnace, where I would be meeting up with my sister Becky again. I did not mind carrying such a wonderful find. For the next 3 days I sported my Crocodile Dundee knife on my hip belt. I was one tough-looking hiker chick, so I thought. Every time I met new hikers on the trail coming the other way, I'd stop to give them the right of way, but I'd also turn ever so slightly to reveal my weapon. Not that I would ever use it, but they didn't know that. I did it to humour myself. It reminded me that in my early planning for the hike, the main question I was asked each time I told someone about my upcoming hike was, "Are you going to carry a gun?" An emphatic no was my reply. I was not going to carry heat, at least not in the form of a weapon. If I had thought for one moment that most hikers would be carrying, I would have stayed home. In fact, I only met 2 hikers carrying a sidearm. I never saw it. One section hiker told me he had a gun on him. The other person was a through hiker I hiked with for a while, and I didn't even know he was carrying until over a year after the hike when we visited each other. My oldest brother John was very concerned that I wasn't taking a gun. Heck, he would have preferred I had taken a small arsenal. He even offered to buy me one of my choice. After I refused countless times, he finally stopped offering. My reasons for refusing a weapon were not that I'm anti-gun. On the contrary, I believe in the Second Amendment and I'm a gun owner. I just couldn't fathom carrying such a heavy item over so many miles up and down mountains. If I'd been smart, I would have let him buy one for me and pretended to carry it so I could have added it to my collection. But I didn't, and the only safety item I carried was the 6 inches of real estate between my ears. I seemed to find things on the trail when they were needed the most. I had found GQ and Walking Man, the blanket, a few miscellaneous items, and now Rambo's knife. It came in handy the next day. I'd never seen a rattlesnake before. It was one of those things in life I wanted to see in theory, but never really wanted it to happen. Just like tornadoes. It would be cool to see one, but not really. I like snakes, but in Maine they won't kill you. I even had a pet grass snake in college. The rattlesnake was something new to me. I'd only seen pictures and heard scary stories of these vipers. Now I had my own tale. I set up my tent outside under the picnic table awning. I didn't want to sleep in the shelter. Several hikers were also there relaxing when another hiker from their group approached and asked if we had seen the rattlesnake on the trail. We hadn't. I couldn't believe I'd missed it. I'd just come from the trail 10 minutes earlier. We all walked back to the trail and crossed in front of the shelter, and there it was, lying on a log in the middle of the path. We snapped photos as it moved off into the woods. Resuming camp chores, we forgot about the snake. All too soon, a hiker announced that the snake slithered back to the shelter area. We tried to scare it back into the woods and move it with long sticks, but it kept coming back. I was a little scared because it seemed to like the area near my tent the best. Securing my tent and gear, I headed to the spring. Before I left, I let the hikers know I had a large knife if they felt the need to use it for some reason and told them where it was. Upon my return, 2 of the hikers met me halfway and informed me the use of my blade was in fact needed, but not to tell anyone. Apparently, rattlesnakes are protected in Pennsylvania. What about us? There were 2 dogs and 3 little kids in camp that night. I do not promote the killing of an animal unless you're going to eat it or if your safety is at risk. Since the snake kept returning, we felt we were at risk. We were also going to eat it. I volunteered to skin it and cook it. I heard it was a delicacy. But that evening, the caretakers of the shelter dropped in for a visit, so snake kebabs were removed from the menu. I was so much happier being on my own. Who would have thunk? I slowed my pace, but I was still making headway. On May the 29th, I crossed the Mason-Dixon line, the 1700s survey line for a border dispute in colonial America. It divides the North from the South. In my blog, I posted, "This Yankee is one step closer to home." I had to add a note that I'm actually a Red Sox fan. Being called a Yankee for a Bo Sox fan is just as bad as a Southerner being forced to live north of the Mason-Dixon line. Besides being close to home, I had seen my first poisonous snake, and by the end of May, I had crossed the halfway mark for 2015, mile 1094.6. It would all be downhill from there, I convinced myself. At Pine Grove Furnace, there is an AT museum and a small country store. Arriving here, hikers have 1,102 miles down and a little less than that to go. Along with this accomplishment comes the challenge of eating a half-gallon of ice cream to celebrate the halfway mark. Of course, one has to hike those miles and then buy one's own ice cream for the sole reward of bragging rights, a souvenir wooden spoon and signing the book. One must choose their flavour wisely. A flavour too rich and filling will surely end in failure. I brought my Hershey's tub of chocolate to the counter. Thanks to inflation, the tub of ice cream is no longer a half-gallon, so hikers need to buy a pint of hand-scooped ice cream to make up the difference. I requested butter pecan. The girl behind the counter informed me that hikers usually start with just the tub. Then they purchase the hand-dipped after they have consumed the tub, so they do not waste any money if they can't finish it. I thanked her politely for the advice and said I believe in the power of positive thinking, and doing it the way she suggested was setting myself up for failure. I took my frozen delights and a Diet Coke to the porch and began my eatery challenge. I was 45 minutes into my tub when I began to feel nauseated. I only had a few more spoonfuls, but I didn't think I was going to keep it down. Was I about to commit the puke of shame? I sat up straight to catch my breath, and when I did, a deep, powerful burp rumbled from the depths of my body. It was so loud the civilians, non-hiking patrons, at the other end of the patio heard me, and they all gave a loud cheer, complete with applause. We all started laughing, and I finished my ice cream in exactly 60 minutes. It wasn't a record-setting time, but it did qualify. I gathered my empty containers and brought them inside to claim my prize, a small, flat, wooden spoon stamped cheaply with the words, "Member of the Half-Gal Club." It was fascinating how much I could eat while hiking. It's the best weight loss program ever. The hiker hunger took a few weeks to kick in, and when it did, I could eat anything. It was common for me to devour whole packages of cookies and chips in one sitting. After I finished the ice cream and soda, I had a pizza. Then later that evening before going to bed, I had another snack. It was delightful. Not only did I get to celebrate the halfway mark, but I was plucked away from the trail again by my sister bear, Becky, and her husband, Pat. Just like Mum and Dad, they too were on the northern migration back to Maine. They had purposefully planned their route to include helping me out. I love my family. I spent 6 nights with Becky and Pat. They shuttled me to and from the trails I slack-packed north. Pat worked out the navigational details, while Becky took care of my laundry and feeding me. What a deal. On the second day of slacking, it rained, and it was wonderful. It was a warm rain and friendly terrain, only a few minor inclines. I completed a not-so-whopping 46.8 miles in 6 days. During that time, I had 2 0 days and a hot meal every night, with snacks and sodas unlimited. They had a mini fridge in the RV dedicated to carbonated beverages with resupply cases next to it. The rule was if you took a cold one out, you would put a warm one in. A few times I did a 1-to-2 ratio. I did not want to run out of cold ones. Months after my hike, when reminiscing with Pat about my eating habits while I was on trail, he said he couldn't believe how many sodas I could consume in one day. Becky and Pat were not the only super generous trail angels. Trail angels were too numerous to count. Several stick out as memorable, though. While I was a temporary resident of the RV with my sister and brother-in-law, I received mail. The real kind, snail mail. It was a package from Solomon, a hiker I'd met a few days back. He was on an overnight with his brother and their 2 sons. It was a guy's night out for them. We stayed at the same shelter area. I was tenting on a platform next to the young boys, and the dads each had a hammock close by. Their Gilligan-style sleeping quarters were protected by Tyvek house wrap. I was in need of a new ground cloth. Tyvek is very expensive to come by in small amounts, and I was quite interested in where they had purchased it. Solomon graciously said I could have his in the morning since he wouldn't be needing it. Apparently, backpacking was not what he considered fun. In the morning, I rose bright and early, and the only sound from my 4 new friends was snoring. I left Bruce's contact information on a note tucked under a rock on the boys' tent platform. I let them know we'd pay him for his Tyvek. To my surprise, while I was staying with Becky and Pat, a package showed up, overnight express, with the 8x10 piece of ground cloth. He wanted no money in return. The generosity of complete strangers towards complete strangers out on the trail was intriguing. The news is filled with horrible acts and accounts of one individual against another, or groups against groups. But out on the trail, everyone looks out for each other. It didn't matter what your skin colour was, your background, or any other factor. The trail community is one of acceptance and communal support, without people taking advantage of each other. Sure, there were a few scallywags, but they soon earned their just reputation and didn't last long on the trail. But the overall generosity and kindness of strangers put my faith back in humanity. Maybe humans are not doomed after all. On another day of slacking, I pulled a typical Emmyism stunt. Since I was slack-packing, I emptied my pack of everything non-essential for the day's hike. You would have thought I had learned my lesson the last time I removed too many items. This time, it was my wallet. Not only did my trail angels drop me off at the trailhead and rescue me from the rain afterwards, they had to spot me for my groceries and lunch. Thanks, guys.